the Trump camp released a video exactly at the moment, I guess the Twitter space crashed.
Yeah.
And this is, so I want to play this for you guys. This contrasts the Trump campaign with the DeSantis campaign at the same time that he was launching.
The Washington established politicians like to talk about how they can be just like Donald Trump. The truth? There's only one Donald Trump. Only one who gave us the largest tax cuts in history, who gave vets the health care they deserve, and stood up to China and protected your job. Only one who kept us out of endless wars while destroying our terrorist enemies. Only one who fundamentally changed the Supreme Court, was called the most pro-life president in history, and relentlessly protected our Second Amendment rights and our borders.
Yeah, well, that's all.
Why would we ever settle for Trump imposters?
Make America great again.
When there's only one, starting day one, who can make America great again.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Look how very epic this video is. This is not an announcement. When Trump made his announcement earlier, it was a lot lower energy, but still better than DeSantis. Now, I'd like to play for you a DeSantis War Room clip released just about 45 minutes ago. And here it is.
1 second, if you remember that music that Trump did.
I'm sorry.
The music that Trump had.
We need an honest reckoning about what happened during COVID.
I'm
and
so
the only
weirded out by
honest
this.
reckoning is that all of those agencies, all of the elites, the public health establishment, they failed. They instituted bad policies.
Okay, I can't play anymore. Why is Elon Musk in this?
Yeah.
What is this video?
It's the weirdest. This is the weirdest war room post I've ever seen of anyone's war room in the history of war rooms. This is crazy.
I'm when that space happened and I got my phone open and I'm sitting in my living room and I'm like, all right, let's hear it. I just went, no.
They're
Are
disconnected.
you kidding me? So a lot of people, I see one super chat, people are saying like, well, what about the policies? We know the policies are good. We've repeatedly said Ron DeSantis has great policies.
That's why we want.
But did Barack Obama get elected on policy?
Yeah.
Did Donald Trump get elected on policy? Sort of. Donald Trump gets elected by being authentic, by going on stage, and when Megyn Kelly tries calling him out and saying, you call women fat pigs, did he go, well, no, you were mistaken. He went, only Rosie O'Donnell, and everyone started busting out laughing. He didn't deflect. He didn't say, well, that's not true. That's out of context. He didn't try lying. He just owned it. Yeah. He owned that. They were going to smear him. It was like, yeah, Rosie O'Donnell. She's like, wow. It is impressive to see the media take a swing at the king and miss.
Yeah.
With this, oh, man.
Well, and that's the thing. Well, no, I just want to say everyone's going, oh, but his policies are good. His policies are good. We know. That's why this critique is important, because we're saying we want the policies that he's going to promote in this country to flourish. And in order for them to be able to do so, he has to be elected, right? And whether he's elected in the primaries or whether he runs for president later on, whether it's the 2024 cycle or 2028, this guy has to do something about his presence.
Barack Obama blew up kids and got reelected.
Yes.
So when you come and you're like, but the policies, I'm like, no, I know the policies are great. We can praise them all day and night.
Yep.
I can say it over. Best governor, best policies, fighting ESG, fighting the wokeness. Man, I love that stuff. And then he goes up on stage to speak in front of a bunch of Americans who don't pay attention to politics, who don't know anything about policy. And he goes, I think truth matters in this country. And they're like, who is it? This is boring.
Exactly.
It's boring. Barack Obama was a celebrity. He got elected because he was charming. Look at Trudeau. They said Trudeau got elected because women found him attractive.
Yep.
Or I should say women voted for him. Many said they voted for him because he was attractive. He was dreamy or something. Yep. He did that yoga handstand on the desk and he's a surfer and they're like, oh, wow. People don't look to leaders based on doing deep analytical research on their policy positions. Mm-hmm. They vote for them if they have charisma.
Exactly.
And by the way,
I think it's a good thing.
All the elections today are decided by low propensity swing voters in swing districts and swing states.
Yep.
So when you want to break this down, Republicans are going to vote for Republicans, Democrats are going to vote for Democrats, and you have this fragment that exists of people who really don't want to vote, and the Democrats are chasing down those voters and those ballots better than we are. So it's like, who's going to hype up their people more and give people more energy to go actually chase down those ballots and build that.
Exactly. And so you might be sitting there saying like, well, I vote based on policy. Yes. No, me too. That's what you should vote based on. Guess what? That's not why most people vote. So we got to figure out what makes most people vote and what makes somebody win. And then if you want DeSantis to win, if we want DeSantis to win, we got to find a way for him to cultivate those things if those policies really matter all that much to you.
It's charisma. If you have charisma, you'll be able to convince voters. You can convince voters without a message. That's what Hope and Change was. That's what Make America Great is. It's an empty shell that people can fill with whatever they believe is important. You can take this message and then you get to go ahead and put your values into it. And that's so really all you need is Riz. All you need is charisma. All you need to do is be able to convince people.
Someone said on Twitter, we lost Tina Turner and Ron DeSantis on the same night.
Oh, wow. Oh, they come in threes. I'm just surprised that when you look at Barack Obama, how he ended up winning, how Democrats often win, right? They got to be charming. They got to be charismatic. Bill Clinton, you've got to come out there and you've got to speak with passion. Yeah. Joe Biden is good at faking the passion and using his dead son as a political tool to earn sympathy. This guy is evil as they come. DeSantis seems like a good guy, but nobody went to him and said, we're going to get you some training. Nobody said, hey, that was a little dry. Can we try it again? Mm-hmm. He had nobody sitting there being like, when you say freedom, say freedom. Yep. Don't say freedom.
No.
Freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom.
Well, what concerns me more is that nobody was on his campaign. And I know some of the people that run his campaign, great people, but nobody was on this campaign that went, hey, maybe we should really turn this into an entire, like a really well-planned event, like as if it were live. Like we shouldn't build this thing out to make it seem like it's much bigger than just the Twitter space, because we can make it seem like everyone's listening on Twitter, but that it's a bigger thing that they're not there or part of, and now they're part of something that's bigger. That would have been a bigger, grander plan. I mean, it just goes to show that the energy is not there with Ron DeSantis, but the energy is not there with his campaign and the people who are surrounding him that are figuring out what actually works with the MAGA base that they have to try to court, which they're not doing at all. That's how you have to win. You have to pull away some votes from Trump.
So you've got DeSantis basically saying what Trump is saying. In no way saying, the only thing he's offered as to why he's better than Trump is that he doesn't think Trump can win. It's like, okay, if that's your attitude, then people are going to be like, okay, I'll take either one. You're not making the argument for vote for me because I'll win. You're making the argument of either way, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. If he's like, well, I think I'll win. It's like, okay, your policies are the same. All right, see you in November.
Well, and that's also not a
Trump
mistake.
wins.
That this is a mistake the Republicans have made in the past. We saw this with the lack of a red wave during the midterms. The entire Republican narrative was red wave, red wave, red wave. There's going to be a red wave. And so there wasn't any actual unified messaging about anything else. And they just assumed that they were going to step in there and claim all these victories. I think DeSantis is probably making the same assumption based on his behavior. He's thinking, I'll just step into the ring against Trump and I'll win because I'm more electable. Well, dude, you got to work up to that. You can't just make that assumption.
Milo was right when he came on the show and he said that Ron DeSantis had the charisma of something off-putting, like when you reach for something and accidentally touch something moist like a wet sponge.
It's like, I don't know if I would go that far. He really bored me. He was saying things that I completely agree with. I should have been cheering for that speech and I was yawning.
But honestly, that's what he's been told to do, though, right? I mean, they're like, we need to win female voters back. We need to win moms back. Well, guess what, guys? In a primary, if it comes down to men vote for Trump and women vote for DeSantis, Trump's going to kill DeSantis because more men are going to show up for the primary.
Or not only that, but a lot of the women who are voting are not going to just be for DeSantis because DeSantis is calm. If they're primary voters, it could be a coin toss.
Yes.
But then guys are more likely going to be attracted to the gruff, aggressive attitude.
Alpha male.
But it could be a coin. If all DeSantis is rolling for is maybe people would prefer my attitude more. And I said it before, right? If we had someone as good as Trump but with a better demeanor, it'd be great. But Ron DeSantis doesn't have the leadership charisma to win. Now, if he wins the primary, he's got my vote, no question.
Yeah, of course.
I think his policy is fantastic.
Of course.
His policies are only mediocre because, in my opinion, if you look at Trump's announcement, the ones that we went over the other night, I have significantly more stronger preference for the stuff that Trump was talking about than DeSantis. DeSantis gave the standard Republican stuff. I mean, it was as boilerplate, boring, everyday Republican as it can get. And I think that's because he's trying to say, look, I'm not as extreme as Donald Trump. Even though he's going to try to attack Trump from the right, apparently, that's the goal, I guess. But it's even still, if you look at Trump's the list that Trump gave the other day that we were going over compared to DeSantis, I think that Trump is actually has a better grasp on the things that I'm interested in, like really tearing up the bureaucracy.
Well, I was at
whether or not he actually will do it, I don't know. But
I was at Mar-a-Lago for Trump's announcement, and I remember everybody going, "Wow, he came in really soft. He was so soft. He was like so." I don't know if you remember, or if you guys talked. Oh, he just talked in a really low voice and went into it. That's because Trump needs to be more soft. Ron DeSantis needs to be more alpha male to sell himself, and he didn't really produce that tonight.
Yeah, so you made an interesting point, Phil, about the fact that DeSantis is going to try to attack Trump from the right. And this is what always happens during primary seasons, right? Yeah. When Republicans primary, they try to be as far to the right as possible so that they can appeal to the hardline conservative base. And then when people on the left are running in the primaries, they're as far left as possible. And then when whoever is selected is in the national election, I don't remember saying all those things, or those things aren't relevant, whatever it is. But with DeSantis, part of what's really a massive weakness for him is the thing that he was best on, the thing that the American people were most impressed with him about was his response to COVID. Now, unfortunately, it is the case that while at the time, the things DeSantis was saying were completely unorthodox, the establishment entirely rejected them. Most Republicans would not want to associate with you if you were saying those things. Because the political science has changed, to quote DeSantis, these are perspectives that you're allowed to have. So that takes a lot of DeSantis's edge away, unfortunately. Even though he was on the right side of this virtually the entire time, because the status quo has changed, he doesn't seem like an outsider anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, and that's what happened to Cruz, right? Cruz was the outsider in 2016. Cruz was the outside guy. Everyone was like, "Oh, I'm going to vote for Ted Cruz. It's a little bit naughty, with all this, because the establishment was going to attack every single person that supported Cruz." Cruz had this massive following. I think he had the most small
Didn't he win
donations.
the first state?
Yeah, he won Iowa. Yeah. It ended up just being barely, but he had all the most small dollar donations, and then all of a sudden it just imploded because all these establishment guys dropped out, started supporting Cruz. Well, guess what? If establishment guys are dropping out and all these consultants and all these different states are trying to get contracts, they're not going to Donald Trump for the most part. They're going to be going to Ron DeSantis's group. And he's going to have a plan to deflect these people. And there's no plan.
The last year I was saying that I was leaning towards DeSantis. I was ready. I've never been a big Trump guy. Trump wouldn't stop talking about me, and talking about what was taken from him.
Yep.
He needs to get back on that message of this is what they took from you. He needs to get back on the message of, with your help, my election brought you a better economy, safer borders, better jobs, etc., an end to Middle East conflict. And then they took that all away from you when Joe Biden became the president. That's his angle. After this launch from DeSantis, I have just lost, because I'm leaning towards Trump. Trump's the guy who's going to go in and clean things up. But DeSantis is a maybe. At this point, I'm like 85% for Trump because it just the inauthenticity of it. Yeah. The Twitter space was scripted. His speeches, they're scripted. Donald Trump is a guy who just gets up there and starts talking. He riffs. And then they go, oh no, he's going off the prompter again. He's ad-libbing, and he's funny. Yeah. Trump is funny. He's personable, and he's got some. He's certainly crass and crude, and can be very insulting to people who are mean to him. But what I'm trying to say is, when he gets up there and talks, he talks from the heart, and he just goes for it. DeSantis gets up there and he reads from his piece of paper in a very stiff and robotic way, and then says thank you, and then walks away. And I'm like, I don't even know if you mean it. Like you were saying about singing, you got to believe it.
Wow. I mean, every single politician. In 2016, I was chairman of Maricopa County, of the Republican Party of Maricopa County. We hosted Trump for what became the first Trump rally, and I got a chance to meet every single candidate that ran back in 2016. And we had like 16 of them or something. I can't remember what it was, 15, 16. And every single person that you meet typically in politics is totally inauthentic. They suck. I mean, even like Ted Cruz, like He wouldn't even talk to people. He sat in the back of his car with a driver playing Plants vs. Zombies the entire time. And it's like Donald Trump, when you meet him, he like shakes your hand and he's like, I like your tie. I like how you do that. Tell me about your life. Let me see your kid. Let me hold your kid. Let me, is this your grandma? Oh, she's so sweet. She has softer hands than you. Like stuff like that.
Yep.
And like, you like the guy immediately. And there's nobody within politics thus far that I've ever met that's that authentic, that actually cares about you.
Anybody who went to a Trump rally saw it. When the rally ends, he walks up to the barricade and starts just hanging out with people. And I was like, how does this guy have the energy for this?
Yeah, and that's the thing about Donald Trump, right? He really is a once in a lifetime kind of political leader. There's nobody who I'm aware of in American political history who's even remotely like him. He's very unique, for better or for worse. Some people don't like that. I like that a lot. And there's not going to be another guy like him who comes along. No, you're right that
people can learn from
it.
this. It's like, guys, like, learn from it.
And that's what I would also say is if you're heavily invested in DeSantis and your position is DeSantis is way better than Trump and you believe that, okay, then you should want DeSantis to learn some of that charisma so that he has a fighting chance.
Yeah.
But don't sit around and act like there's not a problem when there is one. There is a charisma problem with DeSantis. I like him. You can't pretend that's not true.
It is bad.
It will do no one any favors to pretend that's not the case.
But
it's like the Democrats who were trying to pretend that Joe Biden didn't have dementia when he was running in the primaries. Like, you can't not acknowledge this because this is going to get him torn to shreds on the national stage.
So I think Trump, I've said this to people before, I think Trump is like Reagan on steroids. What people liked about Reagan was that he would get up, he'd make jokes, and people were like, oh, he kind of reminds me of like my friend or my grandpa or my uncle, like that makes jokes all the time at Thanksgiving. And like, I like that about him. And like, Trump is like Reagan on steroids when it comes to that. But it's, why don't people, I don't understand like how somebody's running for president and it's like, you don't learn from at least pieces of that, elements of that.
Studying from any other president in history?
Yeah, just like the successful ones that are like, that do well.
Florida's never had a president, have they? I was reading something that said Florida has never sent a president.
I changed my mind then. They're overdue. Now
they are due. But are they the Generals or are they the Globetrotters? Man, it just bums me out to see such a lost opportunity.
Yeah.
It's first impressions can be everything, and probably in a political campaign, your announcement speech needs to hit heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And this I mean, first of all, like you were saying, it's just there's no video. What is it like? Radio? It's like the advent of radio.
It's like FDR.
Yeah, I mean,
they really did not think this through.
Yeah, there's plenty of time. There is plenty of time. He could turn these things around. That's also why constructive criticism is valid and important. Like I said, if you really like DeSantis, you should really be willing to hear these criticisms, and the people at his campaign should too, because I think this is what the guy needs.
I don't think they are. I don't think they are. When I tweeted innocuously like about Jazz Jennings because they're living in Florida, and I said, "Where's DeSantis?" His press people started attacking me on Twitter, calling me a grifter. They're so out of the. I can't believe how bad this is. I'm sorry, I can believe it. It's just somebody's telling him like, here are great policies, here's what the people want. He's like, great. And then he goes on stage and just goes, wah, wah. And then his press people are like, no one better insult Ron DeSantis. Okay, well, if your immediate reaction to any light criticism is to start insulting those, you may as well just be a Democrat. You may as well join the left because your candidate's never going to improve and you may as well just be a cult.
You made an interesting point about charisma. You said it makes you feel like that person is your friend. I was thinking the exact same thing a little bit earlier. People don't realize this. Having that charismatic power is something that a person might see as a thing that a politician needs, and therefore a politician's trade, and something that actually sets you apart from ordinary people. But it's the exact opposite. When someone isn't charismatic, they come off like any other politician, and people aren't as patient, and they're not as interested in hearing what they say because it comes off, like you said, as fake. Just comes off as, this guy's reading off of a script. I'm not doubting DeSantis' sincerity. I think he believes everything he read there. I'll say it again. I like DeSantis, but he really has to work some energy up. He really needs to get some coaching on how to be more charismatic.
Nobody in this room needs a script to explain their position on the border, on crime, on war, and on woke ideology.
Yeah.
No script. And in fact, if you were to go up to anybody in this room, in the public, and say, give me your thoughts on modern politics and tell me how you feel, it might start soft and then it'll slowly escalate as we get more impassioned and it pulls out that anger of the things we're frustrated with, the things we want. The average Trump voter could do a better job. In my opinion, you take a random Trump voter, put them on stage with the microphone and say, rally the people and tell them why you're mad. and it's going to be some middle-aged, factory workers and say, I lost my job when they opened up those borders and they bring in non-citizens to reap the benefits of my labor and then put me out of work. And the crowd goes, wow, they're screaming. Ron goes, our borders are open.
Right.
And we shouldn't allow, oh man.
Well, I don't think it's a lack of sincerity. I think that there are just some people who are more monotone. Their temperament is such that when they say things, it's less exciting and interesting. Again, I think that's something you can work on. I think that's something that could genuinely improve. And by the way, room for improvement is not just a euphemism for you're bad at this. It means you actually could become better. I think DeSantis could become better at this.
You brought up a really interesting point, which kind of overtures with what we were talking about, which is this should have been programmatic. There should have been someone warming the stage up. They should have built this thing to like 1 million concurrent, listeners or whatever. Yep. They should have set a goal, like a bar, like, hey, we're not going to send them out.
They shouldn't have announced it.
They should have announced it. They should have just got this thing like organically, everybody get on Twitter right now. But look, you said something that's really interesting. Donald Trump has done since day one. Our very first rally, which turned into what was the first Trump rally, his team, and I think this is Cora Lewandowski deserves the credit for this. They had invited angel moms, which were the moms, for everyone that's a listener, everyone here knows this, the moms who had a child die at the hands of an illegal immigrant. And that happened in Arizona. This was the first rally was on illegal immigration. But he had invited those people. So before he got up, they had done exactly what you said.
Yep.
They appealed to the audience and they're like, oh, wow, I've never seen a politician do this before. So by the time they got up, like everybody was like in the room, like heated. Like they could have done that. Like, again, lessons learned from.
They could have said nothing, posted no videos. They should have done it on maybe Joe Rogan, if Rogan would have him, but like a big show. And it should have been on a platform that can handle it. And then what happens is 1 hour before the announcement, they tweet out, Ron DeSantis could tweet, I am joining whatever show to discuss, discuss a big change in my life. Tune in. You'll get a mix of people saying, is this going to be an announcement? What's going on? This got to be the announcement. 2 million, 3 million people would be watching. Totally. And then you would say, you guessed right. I am announcing I'm running. Here's why. That could have at least made up for some of the charisma gap.
Yeah.
Instead, they did this wonky, poorly planned thing. And I mean poorly planned in the sense that they announced in advance or it was leaked in advance. Then they put up a video. So it pulled all the wind out of their sails. A bunch of people probably said, okay, I don't need to watch it because I already know. He already announced. Yeah. Then they had the problems on the stream itself. You know what I think? I think they're sitting in their planning room and someone goes, what if we announced on Twitter with Elon? Oh, that's a really good idea. Let's do it. And Elon was like, sure, okay. And then they didn't.
No planning,
no tack, no
program.
You got to think about what happens before. You got to think about what happens during. You got to think about what happens after. When we do shows like this, let me tell you, my friends, we have, I believe, 4 different internet systems. I'm not going to say too much more than that for security reasons, but we have backups upon backups upon backups. Now, people have pointed out, they're like, Tim, your shows have had problems before in the past. Yeah, technical issues do happen. We've had our backups fail. We've had weird technical issues. No problem. We are not running for president.
Yeah. No. And when
I raise $100 million for that.
This is the thing.
Seriously, we don't need billions of dollars. We're doing an internet live stream show on YouTube.
Well, there are backups for this live stream show, and when I do finally formally announce my candidacy for president of the United States, we're going to make sure the infrastructure is in place so that it doesn't cut out or crash.
Someone said that he did take authenticity training. Let me double check that. Is that true?
Someone said he should have gone on Alex Stein's show.
He failed.
Seriously, if he went on Alex Stein or Glenn Beck, it would have been way bigger.
I mean, my biggest takeaway from this whole thing is exactly, I think, what the natural, which is like, how is Ron DeSantis going to be able to hold up throughout this race with Donald Trump? And he's just gonna. And what's so sad about this, which I think really the undertones of everything is that I think everybody wants Ron DeSantis to succeed.
Yep.
I think everybody wants Ron DeSantis to be around in 2028 and 2032 and to learn from it and to pull from the base and listen to the base and listen to the grassroots. But what everything this is looking like is that it's the opposite.
No, I don't care who it is. I want the person that's going to go into the government and harm the bureaucracy as much as possible. I don't want someone that knows the ropes or whatever. I don't care what they know. I want them to know that they're cutting bureaucracy that they're getting. I wanted to get rid of cabinet level bureaucracies, cut them, get rid of the entire Department of Education, like make real substantial cuts. And if DeSantis is going to be like, well, we'll go in and we'll go ahead and we'll change some people around. No, not good enough for me. I want cuts. I want serious hacking with a machete to the federal government.
But I don't know that that Donald Trump will do that either necessarily. But I do think he'll get revenge on the bureaucrats. So I don't know what Rich Bear said, but I did find a tweet from David Marcus who said this is the most embarrassing thing that has ever happened to a presidential candidate. It's not close. Just hold a rally. Yeah, man. All right. Well, let's move on.
Or do this at a rally. Like,
seriously.
Just could have done this
done it on Rumble.
Like, do a massive rally. It's like, oh my gosh, this is like Trump.
Here's the reality. If they did it on Rumble, I think it would have been a lot bigger, but probably still would have crashed. I'm not trying to be mean. We use Rumble infrastructure, but this is a heavy undertaking. If they just did it on a YouTube show, they would have been the official social media launch. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.